If the new year energy has you feeling hopeful, but also a little pressured, you are in the right place because tonight we are going to be creating your aligned vision for 2026. So, this is the kind of vision that sticks because it is going to honor your energy, your season of life, and what matters to you most. So grab a pencil or paper or pen and something and some paper so you can write down your goals and maybe even light a candle and some incense if you'd like. And we are going to get started. So, Merry Meet, I'm Aislin. This is Ask Aislin. And tonight we are here creating your aligned vision for 2026. So leave a heart or a thumbs up somewhere in the feed. This helps us get it out to more people. If you are with us live, welcome. Say hi in the chat. Let us know you are here. As always, we will have a Q&A at the end of the episode. And so you can leave your questions and comments in the chat as we go. And even if you are watching back in replay, leave your questions and comments as well. And we are going to dive in. We have a lot to cover tonight. So, like I said in the intro, make sure to grab some paper and something to write with because you're probably going to want to write some things down for this episode so that you can remember what you came up with during it. And I do want to make a note too about the previous episode, episode 167, calling your energy back for the new year. So that episode is a great episode to complement this one. It helps you to kind of see where your energy is leaking, how you can kind of draw that back in before you set your aligned vision. So if you missed that one, go back and you can check that out on our Body, Mind, Witchcraft YouTube channel. I'll drop that link in the chat in a little bit. But that is episode 167, Calling Your Energy Back for the New Year. So this episode, Creating Your Aligned Vision, kind of assumes that we've already decided what we're letting go of, but at the same time, we will also touch upon that in this episode. So don't worry if you missed 167. I do want to also, kind of before we start, I want to lay out some expectations about what we're going to do tonight. So this is not about it's not about reinventing yourself. It's not about planning out some elaborate structure for 2026. This is more about choosing a direction. And what we also want to make sure here is that this episode helps us to create clarity, but not feel that kind of pressure that we sometimes feel when we're getting ready to create a vision or a plan for ourselves or set intentions. So you do not need a full plan for the entire 2026. I'm going to help you tonight find your North Star and your next step, and that should help the rest of your vision unfold as the rest of the year unfolds as well. So tell me in the comments before we start, what does January feel like to you? If you're watching this live, this is January 6th, so we're less than a week into the new year. Are you feeling hopeful about the new year? Are you feeling pressured? Are you feeling both? Are you feeling something else? Let us know in the chat. Where are we starting from? And I'm just going to take a moment to say hi to those I see here. Cersei and Andrea and Amy, Merry Meet, and Anthony's here, Jason and Maggie, Merry Meet, everybody. So how are you feeling as we have moved into January at this point? So Cersei says feeling hopeful. Good. We'd love to see that. But if you're not feeling hopeful, we want to hear from you too. So as I wait to see what others are feeling, I'm just going to let you know kind of an idea of what we're going to talk about tonight. So first, we're going to talk about how to find your specific alignment. So that's going to look different for everybody because our alignment we're going to learn is about, it's not just about what we want. It's also about the energy and where we are. So your specific and personal alignment is going to look different than everyone else's. We're also going to be creating your North Star for 2026, as well as a little small ritual that you can do to anchor that in. And then we're going to talk a bit about a little planetary forecast for 2026. I'm just going to let you know when some of the major retrogrades are happening because that can alter what we end up doing, and it also prepares us for the energy ahead. And then if there's some time, I've got a deck of cards here, and I'm going to pull some cards for 2026 and do a little divination as well. So we're going to be starting with alignment, because an aligned vision is really going to be the only kind of vision that lasts. But before I go there, I see Amy says she's feeling cold and yucky and overwhelmed. So sometimes the start of the new year does leave us feeling kind of bad. And so hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll be feeling a little bit more optimistic about it, or at least you'll have some direction to go of how to kind of shake off some of that. And Kelly says she's feeling hopeful. She said, I recognize that it's still winter, a time of restoration. So there's no pressure, no big changes, just gaining clarity, which is a really good way to look at it. Something that we talked about in our Shadow Seekers office hours over the weekend is this pressure that people sometimes feel about making a ton of big changes right at the beginning of the new year. And one thing I mentioned is that when you think about it, the transition from one calendar year to the next calendar year really has no astrological significance at all. It's just a significance that we attribute to it. Now, that doesn't mean that it isn't real. So there's a reason why people feel at the new year that they want to set resolutions, or they want to set intentions or something like that. But just remember, astrologically, there's literally nothing that sets this apart from another time of the year. What is true is that the true astrological new year is at the spring equinox, right around March 20th to 22nd to 23rd. That is the astrological new year. So sometimes people feel like they have more energy at that time to actually change and make changes in their life and set bigger goals. So what Kelly is saying, feeling like no pressure and no big changes right now, just trying to gain clarity, is a really good way to think about it, because winter is a time to go inward, to reflect. We are in according to Universal Kabbalah, we are in the Venus period, which is like a really nice period to be in. It feels good usually, but it also is a little lazy, because Venus, the energy of Venus, planetary energy of Venus, is one that isn't about like doing a lot of stuff. It's kind of like relaxing and enjoying what you have. On the other hand, one of the other things to kind of think about is, like I said, astrologically, we're kind of like near the end of the cycle, the astrological year. And so this can be a time when people often feel like turning inward and not doing a lot, not having a lot of pressure on them. So that can lead to that feeling of, everybody's making big changes, and so I should too. But then you feel kind of not aligned to that. So I hope that after tonight's episode, you'll get kind of clear, you'll have the clarity on what you want to create for your own vision. So let us start with what is alignment versus motivation, because I do think it's important to consider the difference between the two. So your motivation tends to be mood based. And so this is where we can get in trouble when our energy doesn't feel like it's ready to make a lot of changes. Because if your mood is kind of low, like your motivation will spike at times and then it will also drop at times. And so you might be feeling not terribly motivated right now. And that's okay, because the kind of vision that we're going to create doesn't need us to have a lot of big energy in order to create it. Now, on the other hand, alignment, as opposed to motivation, is values based and it's energy based. So on the values side, it's about what do you desire, right? What are you devoted to? What matters to you? And on the energy side, it's how much energy do you have? What's your capacity coming out of 2025 into 2026? What is your energetic capacity right now? That's important for you to think about. It's about your nervous system and where you are at. It's about your sensitivity level. Some people are more sensitive to energy than others, and you just may be feeling a lot right now. And it's also about your season of life. So where are you in your life cycle too, right? So that's going to change what our energy feels like when we are creating our goals. So when something is aligned with us, then it's going to feel more steady, it's going to feel more stable, it's going to feel more doable, even if it is not always easy. So even if we know when we're kind of looking ahead at it that there's some work that's going to have to go into it, there will be this sort of open expansiveness that you'll feel when you're looking forward or looking toward a vision that is aligned with your energy, right? And also aligned with your what's important to you. Now, on the other hand, so this is the one way that you can also know when you're setting your vision, and we move forward with the rest of this episode, you'll kind of know that something is misaligned, is it will often show up as like procrastination. So if we select something that maybe it's misaligned with us energetically at that time, we're going to procrastinate doing it. We might feel resentment towards it. We might feel like we are overcommitting to something. We might feel like we are being drained by the energy of it, even if it's something that we should want. So it could be something we really want, but it just feels misaligned. So I'll tell you an example of this in my own past is for years and years, I had this kind of vision of finishing my PhD, which I started in a long time ago and only got like a year or so into it. And then I left to pursue music. And so I kind of kept holding that vision. But what I noticed is even though it's something I should want, it was something that was causing me to feel drained. I would procrastinate. I would feel anxious around it. And this is a way that I know it's kind of misaligned with where I am. And then after that, I thought about getting my a degree in yoga therapy, which is like an additional degree to what I have. And that also felt to me like it was kind of draining my energy. I would procrastinate doing it. And so what I realized at some point is that all these degrees, do I need more degrees? I already have quite a few. So it really was more about me feeling like I had to like prove myself in order to have my spiritual business like this, have my online coven, all this. I needed more degrees and more education. And so I realized that was just so misaligned with the energy that really just wanted me to start the business. And that's when I started the business. And who knows, I probably will love to get that yoga therapy degree someday. It just wasn't aligned with where I am right now. So that is some kind of a good check-in for you is when you think about it, when you think about the vision, how does it make you feel? So just kind of keep that in mind as we move forward and we try to create yours. Okay, so Cersei said, hi, Kitty. I don't see him in here, but he's outside the door screaming. That's Loki. He has like a little straw that he gets from Arco AM/PM, and he carries it around like a bone, and he's trying to get someone to play with him right now. Okay, so let us keep going here. So just getting back to how to know something is misaligned. This would be an example. I care about this, but the way that I'm trying to do it is unsustainable. So that's another way that you might notice that something is misaligned with you. Like you really want it, but the way that you're going about it is draining your energy, perhaps. So drop in the chat. Do you have any examples of your own? Have you ever felt like, you had something that was a good idea that felt good and it looked good on paper, but when you really thought about it, your whole body was saying no? So let us know if you relate to that as well as me with that story about the PhD. Like on paper, it looks awesome. I would love to have the title doctor someday for all the work I've done. But my body was just like, it's not the right time, and my mind as well. It's just not the right time. It's not the right use of my energy. And it's really just distracting me from what I really need to be doing. So like I said, instead of planning out your whole year, we're not going to do that at all. We're going to do a quick alignment check-in. So we hopefully can give you a little bit of direction, and that will unfold as the year progresses. So we're going to start with the 3 truth alignment exercise. So this is where I really encourage you to get, even if it's just a piece of paper, grab a piece of paper so you can jot down some answers to the questions I ask, or I promise you, you are, even if you think you're going to remember them, you're totally going to forget them. You know that. So get your paper so you can write down some quick answers. Now, the other thing, as I start to ask these questions, I want you to really try to not second guess yourself and don't overthink this. So I really would really pay attention to when you hear the words that I'm going to say, what is the first thing that pops into your mind? So even if that thing seems weird to you, I want you to write it down because, again, it's really important for us to notice those those first few thoughts that come into our head when we first hear things. Now, it doesn't mean that that will have to end up being your aligned vision, but we just want to at least know what is popping into your head. Okay, so key here, do not overthink these questions. Okay, so the first truth, there's going to be 3 truths that we're going to come up with, and then together through all of that, we're going to create our vision. So the first question is, what am I done with? So this is kind of a continuation of last episode where we talked about, what we're letting go of, where our energy is leaking. So what am I done with? And here's a few further questions that might help you come up with an answer. What pattern am I retiring? What obligations or dynamic is costing me too much? Okay, so I'm going to ask those questions again, but just go with what's popping into your mind. What am I done with? This is truth number 1. What am I done with? What pattern am I retiring? What obligations dynamic is costing me too much? Okay, and go ahead and you can share it in the chat if you feel comfortable about that, or at least make sure you write it down on a piece of paper so we know what it is. And while you guys are writing that, Kelly said, I know that I need to get back to the gym, lifting weight in particular, but I know if I start now, I'm going to get burned out. So that's very, very smart, right? To be able to kind of know yourself well enough to see that. So I've committed to walking and doing yoga daily to just move. Perfect. I will then I will begin the weights again in the spring and summer when I energetically can handle it. And to me, that is the perfect way to create an aligned kind of intention because she's checking in with her own energy. She, rather than abandoning it and just saying, oh, I'll wait until the spring equinox to start it when I have more energy, she's created something in between. Movement, we know, is the most important thing of all. So we don't have to go to the gym as long as we're moving. So that's very, very good. And Cersei said, what is the third question? Okay, so the third question from truth number 1 was, what obligations or dynamic is costing me too much? Okay, so hopefully we're not spending a lot of time on it, right? It's like, what am I letting go of? What's in my way? What am I done with? That is going to be our truth number 1 as we move forward. Amy says, I just can't bring myself to follow up on a job after all the schoolwork or concentrating on a job after all the schoolwork. And that can be the case. And one of the things I remind my students in my educational therapy practice too is like you do have to manage and monitor your energy. Sometimes, if it's financially doable, sometimes people do need a short break, sometimes do a longer break after they finish school, right? To help them get better in that mindset of getting to the spot where they're ready to do work. Yeah. So hopefully you can give yourself a couple weeks to a month of kind of just going internally, taking care of yourself, doing some work on yourself. And then I think you'll feel more motivated to start looking for work. But that is natural. And just know that you're not alone. Going from schoolwork to job is a tough transition, totally. Okay, so hopefully everybody had enough time to write down number 1. Okay, what am I letting go of? What am I done with? What am I retiring? Okay, truth number 2 is what do I want more of as a lived experience? Okay, so that's kind of the main question. What do I want more of as a lived experience? And then here would be a couple of questions that follow up with that. How do I want 2026 to feel in my body? How do I want 2026 to feel in my mind? Okay, so I'm going to repeat those again. Truth number 2, what do I want more of as a lived experience? How do I want 2026 to feel in my body? How do I want 2026 to feel in my mind? Now, don't remember, you don't have to answer all 3 of those questions. The main question is, what do I want? What do I want more of? Again, remember, no big thinking about this. We want the first thing that's popping into your head, what really feels aligned in your gut. Okay, so I'm going to give you a moment for that as well. And if anybody cares to share, no pressure, but if you want to share what you're coming up with, that's awesome as well. Okay. So what we often will find is, and this is often true for when I think about kind of like dark moon, new moon rituals I've done and led, look, a lot of times what we focus on is what are you going to let go of? And then what are you going to fill with that space, right? So I'm going to let go of my, worrying about the past or reliving the past. And then I'm going to draw in more self-belief in my abilities, right? So we talk about like I'm letting go and I'm drawing in. And then what we often don't do next is like, what's like one thing that we can do that's going to support what we're drawing in. We kind of just leave it with, I want to draw this in. I set that intention. But tonight, what we're going to talk about is truth number 3, what is one next step that supports that? So whatever you wrote in step 2, whatever it is you want to draw in for 2026, or how you want to feel in your body, how you want to feel in your mind, what is one next step that could support that? So we want to make sure that this is small and it is doable. Okay, so this isn't some big elaborate thing. It's small and it's doable. So this could be one conversation. It could be one boundary you want to create. It could be one weekly practice you want to bring in. It could be one stop doing decision. So I'm going to stop doing this, okay? So just to recap, truth number 1, what am I ready to release? Truth number 2, what do I want to feel like in 2026? And then truth number 3, what is one next step that would support that? Okay, and again, feel free to put it in the chat if you would like. Andrea said, I almost feel selfish, but all my answers are about self-care, peace, and focus on shadow work and myself. So one of the things that, first of all, I'm going to normalize that. So the majority of people who follow me, even if you don't know this about yourself, you are probably energetically sensitive if you were drawn to spaces like this. And those of us who are quite energetically sensitive, we are trained to put everybody else before ourselves. So we feel very selfish when we create goals that are about just us. So I just want to normalize what Andrea said. And if any of the rest of you are feeling that, it is totally normal. And I'm giving you permission to focus on yourself. 2026 can be all about you. That is totally fine. I know the world is falling apart around us and it can feel a bit like we're, focusing on ourselves is selfish, but it is not. I'm just here to tell you it is not. Because I know the majority of you guys are usually focusing on everybody else. So I like Andrea's answers that she's coming up with. Okay, so hopefully by now we all have something written down. Again, we're not thinking about this too hard. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to do just a little witchy practice right now to seal it in. And I'm going to have to demonstrate, like I don't have, well, actually, let's see, could I use this little piece of paper right here maybe? Okay, so what we are going to do is we're going to do something very simple, a little spell here. So what I want you to do is I would recommend taking a piece of paper like this. You could tear a little piece of paper off. And on this piece of paper, I want you to write down the thing you wrote into question number one. So remember, this is the thing that you are retiring, the thing that you're not going to carry into 2026, the thing you're letting go of, the thing that's in your way. So whatever it is you came up with in question number one, that is what you're going to write down on this first piece of paper. Okay? So go ahead and write it down. It shouldn't take you very long. This is a small thing. And after you write it down, let me see if this will look right on the camera. But after you write it down, you're going to fold the paper away from your body. Okay, so you write down what you're letting go of, and you're going to fold it away from your body. Okay, so go ahead and do that now. And while you're doing that, just going back to the chat. So Anthony said, I definitely want to release the need to feel, to create content on socials. I want to be more connected to my craft, more active in body, mind, witchcraft, and shadow seekers. So that's great. And, you know, it's kind of what we're letting go of versus what we want to do in its place. Very good. Okay, so, right, so we wrote on the paper what we're letting go of, and we fold it away from ourselves. Okay, so now step two, next step, is that what you wrote in step two of the exercise, this is what you are wanting, how you want to feel, what you want to create more of, what you want to draw in, how you want to feel in your body, how you want to feel in your mind, answer to any of those questions, whatever you wrote for number two. You're going to then write that on another little piece of paper. But this time, when you're done with it, you're going to fold the paper towards yourself, towards your body. Okay? So when we fold it away, it's just a simple gesture of like, I'm folding this away and I'm pushing that energy out. So that's what I'm letting go of. And on the other hand, when I write down what I want to bring in, I'm folding it towards myself. So I'm bringing and directing that energy towards myself. And it's all a very small and symbolic gesture. But remember, your unconscious mind, it does not speak in words. It speaks in symbols and gestures. It understands what that means, even at a level that you may not consciously quite understand. So this is very simple, right? It's like about as simple spell work as we can do. I will let you know what would you do next with the paper. So here's a couple of options. So if you want the first piece of paper that you wrote that you folded away from yourself, what you're letting go of, I would burn that later or rip it up or throw it in the garbage. So this is what we are getting rid of, right? Now, the second piece of paper that you wrote on that had what you are wanting to feel in 2026 or what you're wanting to draw in, I would keep that. You could keep it, put it on your altar. If you're burning a candle right now, you can always put it underneath the candle and put that on your altar. You also could carry this. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll put that in my wallet because that's something that when I leave the house, I'm usually going to be carrying my bag that has my wallet in it. But you could put it somewhere else that you'll carry it with you or put it somewhere else important. Okay, and so drop in the chat what is the word or phrase that you are calling in for 2026? What are you calling in? And if you guys are watching in replay, you can also write that down. I go back through all the feeds later, and I respond to everybody who left messages after the live as well. So what are you calling in? Drop in the chat a word or a phrase. What are you calling in for 2026? Okay. So hopefully everybody completed the exercise because we're going to kind of move forward now. We're going to take what we just did here and we're going to turn that into our North Star and for 2026. So Cersei, she is calling in magic. Anthony is calling in I am a witch, which I love that. I love all of these. Amy says she's calling in joy and financial stability. And you're much in luck, Amy, because we are doing our whole month in Shadow Seekers is joy and kind of abundance for January. So we're going to be doing a whole bunch of talking about that this month. Anybody else want to share your word or your phrase for 2026? Drop it in the chat. Okay, so what we are going to do now is we are going to go ahead and we're going to take this a step further by creating our North Star. And Kelly says, calling in desire, allowing myself to want deeply. Very good. That's some good sacral chakra work right there. So creating your North Star, and then we're also going to create a support sentence to sort of guide you. This is creating a vision that's going to stick, one that hopefully you'll be able to then create more intentions from this. So my goal here is to help you sort of create this overarching kind of direction. And then as you move through the year, things are going to change and fluctuate for you. Things are going to happen that you are not expecting. Things will happen that you are expecting, but things will happen that you aren't expecting. And in your overarching theme will continue, right? That North Star is going to carry you through 2026, but what you do about it might shift month to month. But when we create a stable vision like this, at least we have something to guide us. So here is your prompt. In 2026, I am devoted to blank. So this may be the same thing that you just wrote. That's okay. Or maybe there's a different way you want to phrase it. But here is your prompt. In 2026, I am devoted to blank. So lots of different examples, like for example, these things that people are writing in the chat would be great, right? Other ideas, love, self-love, peace or calm, especially if you've been having a lot of anxiety, education, maybe it's time to do some more learning, right? Self-care, self-belief. A lot of the shadow seekers have been talking about that as an idea, of something they want, identity, connection, abundance, creativity, inner child, etc. So there's no right or wrong to this. In 2026, I am devoted to blank, and that is your North Star. So if you think about the North Star, the North Star in stories of old, right, before there were compasses and lots of GPS, the GPS like we have today, people would use the North Star to orient themselves when they were traveling. So this sentence that you are creating here, in 2026, I am devoted to blank, is your North Star that will carry you through this year. Angie said in 2026, I'm devoted to healing. That's really great. Andrea said, peace, alignment, loving myself as much as I love others. What a great goal, right? Kelly said, calling in desire. I read that one already. Calling in desire, allowing myself to want deeply. Anthony says, witchcraft learning. Very good. These are all great. So remember, yours is yours and unique to you. Don't second guess it. Please don't feel that it's selfish. That is the whole point of this, right? I think too that sometimes there's conditioning that is created through whether you were raised Christian or not. You do live in a society where about 2/3 of people identify as Christian, and so those values, whether they're devoted and devout or not, they identify with it. And so those values, they are attached to our collective, and one of the values is kind of always putting everybody before yourself. Many do not live up to that, by the way, who identify as Christian, but that permeates us as well. And so sometimes witches will feel like they still have that guilt whenever they want to create things that are putting themselves first. They can shy away from work like this without even understanding why or feel bad about it. So again, I'm giving you permission to drop all that bullshit, right? Because that is not how we as witches work. Your vision, whatever your vision needs to be, whatever you are devoted to in 2026, whatever that looks like, that is yours. And it is important to honor and embrace that, whatever it is. So Cersei says in 2026, I'm devoted to my spiritual practice. And then Anthony says, I feel if I'm not helping myself, how could I help others? Cannot give from an empty cup. Yeah, I know it's something I think about a lot too. It may be a bit cliche, right? But of course, if we drain ourselves all the way down, there is no way we can help other people the most effectively. So the person who is called to be a helper, to be a healer, to be a carer, needs to spend time sometimes just devoted to themselves so that they are stronger. And honestly, I read something recently. It was actually in a reading I was doing for myself. And one of the cards I pulled talked about like the wise sage. And if you think about it, like think about the really wise people that shamans, medicine women and men and people. And do we think those people are always draining themselves? Usually not. The wisest healers are the ones that know there are times in their lives when they can't heal others. They have to devote them to their own healing, right? And so it's just important for us to kind of remember that. Chelsea said, I have 3 words for the year. She said, trust, enchantment, and action. Very good. She said T. T as well, TEA. Very, is that what I'm not? Sometimes I can't even read what this says. I think that's what that says. And Anthony said he got that from some shadow work. Yeah, and that is what the shadow work will give you too, is those enlightened answers like that are give you permission, right, to put yourself first. Okay, so now that we've created the North Star sentence, so in 2026, I am devoted to blank, we are going to create a second sentence, which is like the support sentence. So this is like, we got the goal, but what is one thing we can do to get it, right? So this could be from your truth number 3 that we wrote down a while ago, or this could be something new you come up with right now. But the prompt is, the structure that protects this goal is blank. So the structure that protects this goal is blank. So some examples could be, it's basically, what will you be doing, right? At least for now. This doesn't have to be all of 2026, but at least for now, what will you be doing to protect that goal, that desire that you have, or what you're devoted to? So it could be a weekly planning ritual. So maybe somebody had like a business goal, right? And so they're like, well, weekly, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do some planning, and that's going to help me protect my devotion towards growing my business. It could be boundaries around your time. That's a big one for me. I have got to create better boundaries around my time. A simpler schedule. Maybe your schedule's too crammed full of stuff. Daily grounding practice so you don't feel so scattered. Protected creative hours. So maybe you are somebody who wants more creativity. You want to be devoted to your creativity. And so you need to have a protected hour that is just yours, that nobody can impinge on. It's just you in your creative center. So going back to that, the structure that protects this goal is blank. Okay, so go ahead and write that down, and then feel free to share that in the chat as well. So Kelly said, ex-Christian here. She said, the main reason I chose desire this year because it's so taboo. Totally right. But really, I wasn't allowed to do what I wanted when I was growing up. And that can be the case of many people who are kind of ex-Christians as well, myself included. You're kind of taught like this is the way that you're supposed to be, but it doesn't leave room for what you actually want. So Anthony said, so what he's going to do, he said, pull an oracle card daily. He said it helps him to stay connected and not as deep as like doing the tarot. Yeah, totally. So it's good to create, and that's the important thing too, is to whatever you do for the structure sentence, the structure that protects this goal is blank. We want to make sure it is something that you can do. It shouldn't be something that when you think about it, you have any dread or think it's too much or too big. It's just got to be something simple you can do. It doesn't have to be something daily, as you noticed from what I said. It could be something that you're doing weekly or just an overall kind of goal. But pulling an oracle card daily is a great goal because it's quick, it's easy, and it doesn't cause a lot of stress, right? So Cersei said finishing demystifying witchcraft and the intro work for shadow seekers. So I remember what she was devoted to was learning, right, or spiritual learning, right, and growth and progression. And so that sounds like a great thing she can do, right, is complete the course she started, do the intro work for shadow seekers. And notice she's not saying do everything in shadow seekers where there's like, who God knows, 100 hours worth of content or something. She's just saying do the intro work. Good, that's a great goal to start with. Oh, and then Anthony was giving a little, he said Lilith is a good goddess to work with for desire. Yeah, totally. Okay, so you can keep it coming. What is your support sentence? The structure that protects this goal is blank. So now here's what you're going to do next. So you are going to circle 1 to 3 words from that North Star sentence. Okay, so that was the sentence where in 2026 I am devoted to blank. I want you to circle 1 to 3 words from it. So it's usually going to be like whatever it is you're devoted to would be like one word, or if it's a phrase, it would be a phrase. And we're going to use these words or word that we have circled to create a sigil that is going to be your symbolic North Star that you'll be able to draw places, carve it into your candles as you further your goal for 2026. You could put it anywhere you want, but here's 2 options of how you can create it. So one is you can simply turn the word or words into a symbol of your choosing. So it could be an abstract symbol like a spiral, an arrow, a rune-like shape. So if you feel like there's just a symbol that feels like it speaks to you in relation to your North Star, what you desire, what you're devoted to in 2026, you can draw that. Or you can create a sigil in a more traditional way, which I'm just going to explain quickly in the interest of time, because gosh, I got to keep moving here so we have enough time for everything. This was just an example I made up earlier. And so the word I wrote down was self-care, which probably is going to end up being part of my vision as well. So if I write down this word, self-care, in order to make a traditional sigil, what I will do is I will cross off all the vowels as well as any repeated letters. Now you can see in this particular word, there are no repeated letters. So all I ended up doing, except for the 2 E's, which are vowels, but all I ended up doing was crossing out the vowels. From there, I then wrote down the remaining letters. So it was SLFER, or sorry, SLFCR would be the remaining letters. Now, it doesn't matter whether you use the letters as capital letters, lowercase letters. Also, just so you know, you also can take letters apart. For example, like a uppercase R consists of like a line and then like a curve and then another line at a 45-degree angle. So you can take the pieces apart and then you use your, don't overthink it, but you'll create some kind of a design using those letters. So the idea here is that if somebody were to look at this, no one knows that this says self-care. Now you guys do because I showed you how I created it, but nobody else would know that, right? And so that's the idea behind a sigil. So what I recommend is whether you do it now or you do it later, you can always circle that word or words later and then create your sigil later. But what you can do with it is you can Like I said, you can write it down, draw it places, carve it into candles, put it on a sticky note, and put it on the mirror in your bathroom, places where you will see it. And the idea is your unconscious mind, and conscious mind help to create it, but unconsciously your mind knows what that means. So every time it sees it, it's like a little anchoring back to your North Star. Kelly said, question. She said, I came up with being open and curious, seeking out new experiences for desire. She said, does that need to be more actionable and more specific? Um, I think that it's pretty good. I mean, you could tweak it just a little bit so that I guess what I would ask myself is, will I know when I have achieved it, right? So with a goal like being open and curious, seeking out new experiences. So maybe like seeking out one new experience a week or one new experience every 2 weeks or every month or something that seems doable, but just put something there. So just tweak it just a little bit so that you'll know that you have achieved it. And that's all I would say. Otherwise, I think it's very good. So Andrea says, sticking to boundaries, should protect my time and not feel guilty about it. Implement a schedule with scheduled me time. Yeah. So sometimes like we need to schedule in our me time or our self-care, and you really should, especially if you're somebody who has problems with it like I do. You should write it down in your planner or on your calendar, just like you would with any other appointment, because it's that important, right? um, okay, so hopefully now you kind of know how to create your sigil. So I'm going to move on, so we kind of move through this. But I did want to mention, I think the sigil to me is a great little witchy practice, and it's something you can implement later in spell work to help to anchor you and draw you back to your North Star. Another thing, though, I don't think the episode would be complete without mentioning vision boards. So if you do want to take everything a step further, you've done all of the kind of the groundwork, you figured out like what you really want, what's your North Star, you've got your symbol that you're going to eventually make, or you have already made. But if you want to go a step further, you can make a vision board. If you have never made one, they're very easy. So here's an idea for like a 3-layer one where you kind of think of 3 layers to this vision. So the first layer is words or images about how you want to feel. So kind of think about, like we talked earlier, about how I want to feel in my body, how I want to feel in my mind. So steady, spacious, nourished, clear, devoted, protected. So any of those, or other words. But how do you want to feel? And you can write words on the vision board. You can cut out letters, but words or images related to how you want to feel. At the second layer, this would be your identity. So the identity of who you are becoming, who you want to be in 2026. So words, images about who you are becoming. Like I keep promises to myself. I trust my intuition. I am calm and I am grounded. So anything around the identity of the person that you want to create for 2026, so that could go into your vision board. And then I would also think again about, like in layer 3, about the structure of how you get there. So think about how we created the North Star word or phrase, but then we also created like the support sentence of how we're going to get there. How are we going to know we're achieving it, or at least we're on that kind of path towards that goal. So 3 to 5 images or words that represent supportive systems that will help you get to the vision of who you want to be in 2026. So this could be like a calendar. It could be like images of a morning ritual, movement, if that's part of your goal, journaling, therapy, boundaries, savings. Some people could have like a goal around abundance. So it could be a piggy bank, right? And they're saving some of their money. That encourages them not to just frivolously spend it because they have some bigger goal. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Nowadays you could create a vision board on Canva. You can get a free Canva account. You can create one on Pinterest, or you could do the old-fashioned vision board where you get magazines and you cut out words and images. Or you could go to websites and print out pages with words and images and cut those out and put them on the vision board. What I would recommend though is keeping your vision board one page only, so it doesn't have you don't have to make like pages after pages after pages of them. Keep it one page and keep it kind of simple. And then also kind of a neat idea is consider if there's a way you could make a version of it for your phone wallpaper and put it on there. And so one way you could do is if you were making like a physical one, you could just take a screenshot, you could just snap a picture of it and then put that on your phone wallpaper. Put it somewhere where you can see it. So I hope that I hope that all of this kind of helps you create your vision. Really quick here. Let's see. Yeah, okay, we got time for both of these things. So I just wanted to run through quickly a couple of dates I think you should keep in mind for 2026. So let me kind of go through the first Mercury retrograde. So if you want to jot these dates down, this is not to freak you out. It's just to give you a heads up. I feel like I write these down on my calendar. I have a big wall calendar where I plan out everything for my businesses. And I write these dates down too, as well as the moon phases. So I always write on my big calendar, new moon, full moon, dark moon, first quarter and third quarter, and then any retrogrades that are happening that month. Okay, so your first retrograde of the year that may affect you is Mercury, and it's February 25th through March 20th. So remember, Mercury retrograde tends to be the simplest of all the retrogrades. It usually affects our communication, watching out for how we communicate. I don't think Mercury retrogrades are good times to make really big decisions because a lot of like emotions will come up during them. And what I usually tell myself is if I'm feeling a lot and I'm inclined to rashly make a decision, I always remind myself I will wait till the end of Mercury retrograde, and if I still want to do that thing, then I'll do it. But I wouldn't do something major during a Mercury retrograde if I can avoid that. So again, that's February 25th through the March 20th. Make sure to back up computers, especially if your computer is kind of older. Be more aware of communication during that time. Emails, make sure they actually get to the sender. Text messages, watch out that you don't send a text about a person to that person. So for example, you were like maybe talking about someone or something to another person, don't accidentally send it to the wrong person. That's Mercury retrograde. We do have a Venus retrograde coming up near the end of the year. It's October 3rd through November 13th. I think I have these dates right. I wrote them down a while ago when I looked them up. So I will double check afterwards to make sure I have them right, but I think I have them right. So that is October 3rd through November 13th. So when Venus is retrograde, it can change things about how we perceive our values, our relationships, money as well, and self-worth. So this is a good time for you to kind of, retrogrades in general are good times for you to turn inward and reflect on those themes that are coming up. And again, like I wouldn't do anything rash in a relationship from October 3rd to November 13th. If you have this inclination to do something, of course, get out of abusive relationships as soon as you possibly can. But if it's not an abusive relationship, I would do more reflecting during the retrograde and do more of the action afterwards, given what you've learned in the retrograde. Jupiter will have a retrograde that is going to go from let's see, we're in it right now. So it started at the very end of 2025 and it will go through March 10th, 2026. So this is a time, like Jupiter is a planet of expansion, but when it's in retrograde, it's like the expansion should be inside of you. So this is a really good time for us to be doing the internal work. It's a spiritual growth, making meaning, things like that. So it's personally, it's a great time for us to be finding direction. So it's very aligned with what we're doing tonight. And then that retrograde will be over on March 10th. And then that energy of expansion of Jupiter, as soon as it goes direct, it will open up more external expansion. So good time for planning internally how to expand, and then then opening up at the beginning of March. Our Saturn retrograde of the year will come on July 25th to December 10th. So it's like the second half of the year. When Saturn is retrograde, Saturn is our taskmaster, the one who delivers the lessons. So during a retrograde of Saturn, sometimes you will actually have lessons start at that time, or you might be revisited by lessons of the past, or you can also use that time to reflect on what you have learned through different lessons in your life. I think that during a Saturn retrograde, it's a good time for shadow work. It's a good time. It happens to be the second half of the year, which is also the dark half of the year. So it's just perfectly aligned with you going more internally, doing some more protection magic, protecting your energy. And then we do have a Chiron retrograde that would be coming at the end of the year. So like the Chiron retrograde just ended for 2025. It ended on the 2nd of this month. And then there's another one that will start August of 2026, and it will extend into January of 2027. So that can bring up things around your wound, the wounded healer. So whatever you are healing in yourself creates an ability to heal similar things in other people. So you may be visited with information about how to reprocess your own wound or reflect on them, or maybe things that you thought were healed kind of pop back up during a Chiron retrograde. So I just wanted to give you that little just general forecast because I think it's important to just know where the energy is going to be as we're creating our goals. If you're not interested in it, just feel free to ignore that. But if you are interested in kind of the planetary retrogrades around centering your goals and your plans, now you at least have a little forecast. Okay, so I am going to end here. Let's see. Okay, you know what? Tell you what, I'll draw a couple of cards because I said if there was time I would. Now I do have a couple of questions for the Q&A, so I will still have time to answer those as well. But just so you know, if you do have any questions for the Q&A, put them in the chat now. The questions do not have to be about what we talked about tonight. It could be anything related to shadow work, witchcraft, or energy work. I'm going to draw 3 cards like I usually do in our weekly draw in Body, Mind, Witchcraft. So the idea behind these 3 cards is like energy for 2026 or something to be aware of. So choose a number, 1, 2, or 3. Or you can choose all 3 of them if you want, or if you're drawn to 2 of them, that's okay too. But let's just see what comes up. I'm using the Psychic Tarot deck by John Holland, which is one of my favorites. So the first card we got, number 1, is Disruption. So this is connected to the tarot card of the Tower. So remember, the Tower is not about all bad things, right? Because when the tower crumbles from the rubble, we begin anew. So this can be the end of one cycle and the beginning of the next one. This could also be about reflecting on changes and shifts and those moments when the rug has been pulled out from under you. But I do want to just be clear, this doesn't mean like terrible things are about to happen to you. If you selected card number 1, it's just asking you to kind of think about, well, what does disruption mean to you? What's your relationship with it? And, what does that mean? It's kind of think about too. What did you write? What were your goals for 2026? What's your North Star? And does this relate to it in some way if you chose number 1? So let's pick card number 2. You can feel free to put in the chat too which ones you chose and if it makes any sense for where you are right now. Okay, here's number 2. So this is Truth, and let's see here. So Truth, you can see this image of this person is kind of like on a balance. They seem to be a little heavier than the one in front of them. So you can kind of think about that and how this relates to you and how it's connected to you. This card is also connected to the Judgment card from traditional tarot. So it could be about really finding whether the truth that you you're pursuing is your real truth? Is it someone else's truth? Are you aligned with it? This card could also ask you to create some more balance in your life for 2026, or kind of weigh the consequences of action or inaction as well. And then let's draw a third one here. Okay, number 3. That's not it. Okay, trying to find it. Can't find it. Hold on. Okay, I think this is it. Wisdom. So the wise sage, the person who has learned from their experiences, right, and become wise. And like we were talking about earlier, wisdom, the wisest people know that they can't give and give and give. They're not always self-sacrificing, right? They know when it's time to fill up their cup. So this is number 5, wisdom. Okay, so hopefully let us know in the chat if the card made any sense to you, the one that you chose. And so I am now going to kind of try to get through these questions pretty quickly here. I will let you know in the next episode on 113, which is next Tuesday, we're going to do an episode on the witch's toolbox. So when we talk about different tools that witches may use in their practice, knowing that tools are not necessary but can be fun to use, and at least it's good to learn about them. Okay, so let me see my questions here. So Tom asked about fear. He said, what can I do against fear? He said, I don't really want to specify what I mean because I'm afraid to express it. So sometimes fear can have us so bound up and wound up that we can't even, we don't even want to put it into words, right? Because we're so afraid of even saying it out loud. So I think when people are feeling a lot of fear, one of the best pieces of advice I can give is to try to ground yourself as best as you can and try to center your energy. So grounding is about, finding that connection to the earth below you, but also to something that's stable and supportive. So grounding practices, like sometimes we think about just like the grounding tree meditation, but grounding practices can also be like physical ones, like touching the ground with your skin, right? If you're flexible enough, bringing your forehead down to the ground, like if you're like in child's pose or something like that, if you do yoga, or just being able to get into that pose, bring your forehead to the ground can be very grounding. But grounding can also be about your support system, therapy that you do, different practices that make you feel stable and secure, working with your root chakra. One of the best ways to combat fear is to work with the root, because oftentimes we're fearful because we are feeling like rootless or not rooted enough. So that would be my kind of, without knowing more about what it is specifically is, that where the fear is coming from, that would be my best advice for a starting point, is just to start with the root chakra and get yourself grounded. Connie said, what is the best way to reconnect with your craft after suppressing it for years? So many people have heard me say this, so sometimes I feel like I'm repeating myself and people are going to get tired of it, but it's the truth. So I think one of the best things to do when a person is coming back to the practice after many, many years is to set up your short spiritual daily or almost daily practice. That can be as simple as just lighting a candle with intention every day, or pulling a card, doing some kind of light, getting into a light meditative state, doing a little bit of breath work. It doesn't have to be a lot. A few minutes is all it takes. It's really about the regularity and the consistency of the practice. And you'd be shocked at how, when you haven't done anything for a while, you will be shocked at how much that will change when you do some tiny little practice. Like literally, if you just light that candle with intention every day, what you will start to see is that more and more opens up around you, and you will begin to feel more anchored and connected. And then as you start to feel more anchored and connected, you'll expand those practices. So that would be my best advice. Now, we do have an episode on the importance of setting up a daily practice, and I will drop that in the chat afterwards. Also, for those who would like to check that out and learn more about how to set up a daily practice. Angie said, I don't know where to get started with shadow work. So this is a question I get asked a lot. And so I think one of the best places to begin to get started with shadow work is to start thinking about what triggers you, or sometimes people don't really like that word, but what irks, irritates, or annoys you, because those things are sort of rubbing you in that way because there's something that you can learn from them. So sometimes people are hesitant to go this route because they're like, that means it means they have that quality inside of them. And while that could be true, the reality is we have all qualities inside of us, even the ones we pretend aren't there. But whatever bothers us is usually something that's begging to be healed. It doesn't mean that we negate or we don't, oh, so let's say a person has been bothering us. It doesn't
So
mean,
Mary,
whoops, it doesn't mean that we're stopping that. I'm just getting a link here to drop in the chat in just a moment. But it doesn't mean that we're taking that person's role out of this. It just means more that we're reflecting on what it means to us. So to me, that's the first place I generally have a person start with shadow work. And I would have them do it cyclically. So making sure that once a month you take out some time. I think that's the best time to do it is the waning crescent, the last 7 days of the lunar cycle. Just take out some time to reflect on what's bothering me the most right now, and do some reflective thought on that. And then, if you want to go further with the shadow work, I'm going to drop in the chat. So this is a workshop I did back at the end of January on how to do shadow work. And it goes through my step-by-step method that kind of, if you follow it, it will have you starting shadow work, and you'll get going on it. For those who are in our Shadow Seekers membership, we take that a step further. We actually have a whole course called in the membership called How to Do Shadow Work, which is new now, and it takes what we learned in that workshop and expands it. But that would be my best advice. Check out that video if you want to get started with shadow work, and then reschedule in your cyclical time when you will reflect on the things that are bothering you in that moment, and see if you can gain some clarity around them, where they come from, and what they might mean. And then Samantha asked about what is the best way to learn the language of spirit. So I think that the language of spirit is a spirit that doesn't have words, and so that's why it can be confusing as to how to learn it. It's like our unconscious understands it. This is why getting really connected to your higher self is a good goal, because the higher self does have great access to the spirit world and to the element of spirit, and so it will allow you passage and an understanding of the language and the nature of spirit. But I think that all of the practices that we do, balancing our energetic system, to me, through using the chakra system to balance all of our energy, doing our shadow work, doing our daily practices, staying spiritually anchored and connected, having support systems, like all of this sets us up for being healthy spiritually. And when we are healthy spiritually and we're connecting to our higher self, we're better able to understand the language of spirit. I think that another element to this, or another aspect to this, is our self-belief, is really getting clear on where our self-doubts come from. Sometimes we think we're not worthy. It could be like an unconscious belief that's only on the periphery. But sometimes we don't think we're worthy of speaking to the gods or speaking to spirit in general, right? And so getting really, working through shadow work around that, getting really strong in our self-belief, and working to get rid of our self-doubt, because that's the other thing, is like spirit is a language that, to me, it comes through as feelings. It's feelings of being aligned. It's sometimes it can be spoken words in the mind, like through talking to deity, talking to spirit. But many of us will negate that. because we don't we don't think that we have the ability to listen and to understand. So really strengthening our self-belief is going to be a great key and aspect when it comes to being able to understand the language of spirit. But again, to me, it's more of a feeling of being aligned, of knowing that that thing I'm thinking or that thing I'm feeling is coming directly from spirit. So I hope that helps. Let me go into the chat and let me see if there are any other questions here for me. Let's see here. Hey, the chat has jumped and it's hard for me to exactly see what are the questions here. So if I miss any of these, just by the way, if I miss any of these, I'm going to go back into the feed after this and I'll answer anything I missed. And Andrea said, when was the Saturn retrograde? Okay, let me go back and get that date. July 26th through December 10th. So it's like the second half of the year. It's not quite 6 months. It's usually about 3.5 to 4 months. So July 26th through December 10th. Okay, and I see Cersei had given it to her. Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. Okay, so I am going to sign off because the episode's going longer than I try to keep it under an hour, but we're already over. But I will go back through the chat and I will answer any questions and comment on anything that I missed there in those last few minutes. But I hope that tonight's episode helped you to gain some clarity and some direction and to understand that creating a roadmap for the new year or an aligned vision for the new year does not have to be complex. It doesn't have to be difficult. And it doesn't have to have everything laid out all at once. Remember, your North Star is your guiding vision, and then you can have that to kind of guide you. And as you go through the journey of 2026, let that be your North Star, and let the other things that happen around you kind of help you understand more specifically what you'll be doing at any given part of the wheel of this year. All right, so leave a heart or a thumbs up somewhere in the feed. That helps us get this out to more people. And make sure to subscribe to our Body, Mind, Witchcraft YouTube channel. And that way, that's where all of our replays are. And you will be alerted and you will not miss a single episode in the future. That also helps us get closer to our goal of monetizing the YouTube channel. And if you have not already signed up for our mailing list, let me just drop that link in the chat. You will get notified about when the replays are available every week. And you will also receive a copy of the Witch's Guide to Shadowwork. So if you're not already on our mailing list, definitely sign up. Let me drop that link in the chat. If you're watching back on YouTube later, that link is just in the body of the video, of the description. As always, it's awesome to spend Tuesday evening with you. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, or if you're watching this later this week, hopefully you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Until then, blessed be.